following is a presentation of the IH Sports Network. You're listening to The Round Table. For the next 2 hours, we'll talk local high school sports with the voice of the Oneida Indians, Tim Smith.
Pitches to Grady Keaton working against Orr. Takes him to the basket, lays it in.
There we go!
And he was fouled by Orr.
The voice of the Scott Highlanders, Rick Keaton.
Outside,
There you go.
deflected.
There you go.
Lloyd, the long jumper is no good, and the Highlanders pick up the win.
Produced by the IH Sports Network, The Round Table begins now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Round Table on the IH Sports Network, alongside the voice of the Oneida Indians, Tim Smith, the voice of the Scott Highlanders, Rick Keaton. I'm Ben Garrett. Thank you for joining us, as tonight we are getting into spring sports. Basketball is over for us and for our teams. Well, Tim, that's not technically correct. We got a little something up our sleeve to extend our coverage. You just stay tuned, and we'll let you know within the next 24 hours what we're up to. But for the most part, our teams are done. Scott High's done. Oneida's done. It's spring sports time, and things are already getting started. Oneida softball had a scrimmage tonight over at Campbell County. Oneida soccer had a scrimmage on Tuesday. Scott High soccer was scheduled to go to Claiborne County, on Saturday. That's been canceled, so both of these two teams will be in action next Saturday at Scott High for the annual play day. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to bring in each of our coaches. We're going to talk to them about their team, about the season ahead, and we're going to start with soccer tonight, as we're joined by Oneida head coach Derek Keaton and Scott High head coach Eric Henry. And I'm the moderator, guys, and so I'm going to let you two, Tim and Rick, just fire away at these guys and ask them about their teams. But we'll start over here. I'm going to start with Derek, because E comes before D. Oh, no, D comes before E, doesn't it? I went to Robbins. Okay, don't.
I went to Robbins. I turned out all right there.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
So, but O comes before S. So we'll start with Derek Keaton. And Derek, your team, there's always high expectations around your team at Oneida. Now, you lost some important pieces last year, but you've been losing pieces for the past few years, and you plug them back in. Talk about what you lost and what you got coming back and your expectations for this year.
Well, anytime you lose two All-State players, which are the two first All-State players to ever play at Oneida and be recognized that way, and that was Wes Hurst and Gilbert. And when you lose those two guys, that's a lot. Wes Hurst was a man back there. I mean, he, against the stiffest of competition, he done extremely well. And then when you go to the other side of it and you think about what we lost in Gilbert, when we lost him, when he broke his leg, we did not score another goal in 2 games. And so Nick was an extremely valuable player that we lost last year. And then when you go to Luke Barna wasn't the all-state player, but I'm here to tell you, y'all know the talent that he was. He could have easily been that guy too, because he was just so gifted from a skill standpoint. And those guys there are hard to replace, yes. But thank God that the Lord always seems to kind of provide. And so we've got some young guys that's come in, and we're pretty excited about that. But that's going to be a big hole to fill.
So I don't want to dwell too much on last season, because this is about this season. But Nick Gilbert and his play last year, it caught me by surprise. Did you see that coming in, the offensive production that he was going to provide?
Yeah. So basically, you got to realize Nick and Mason have played together for a long time. Okay, and this goes back to middle school. And Nick realized that if he got in the weight room and he worked on his skill set, and he did the entire off-season summer, he was the leader. He worked, and when he came in, we all thought he could be that player. And not only could he went and did it. But you got to realize the chemistry that him and Mace have together. He knew he's going to go touchline, he's going to lay it off. I've got to be able to one-touch and finish, and I've got to be strong. And Nick's going to win every one-on-one ball. He wins every one-on-one ball. But he's smart, and you're talking about a guy, Nick, that's super high IQ and strong physical, but it didn't come without hard work. You got to realize, too, he played club. He played up 2 years in a club team. And so he played good competition and got himself ready, but he started every year at Oneida. He started as a freshman. And so that was huge for him. So he wasn't wide-eyed. He expected to. And, hey, he should have been a senior this year. He was a junior. He's in Germany. And Nick, if you're listening, we miss you, brother. But we are going to – big shoes to fill.
Well, to your point, the game after he broke his leg, I remember sitting back there, and I knew the production that he was providing would be hard to replace. But what I did not expect was the way it just almost seemed to suck the energy out of your team. Is that fair?
Yeah. Well, when you take a leader like that, what they could do then is key on Mason. And the other guys had not come along just yet, which is different this year, but they hadn't come along just yet to be able to fill that gap. And we were led by, those two, and then, of course, Luke was huge, and then Levi always filled in around the edges. And that's a pretty good feeling, because Levi pretty good too. And but it really, in the competition level, Loudon came in revenge. We upset them the year before. They were shocked, to be honest with you. And then when they came here, they were ready to play. And when we missed all those, we dominated the game first 30 minutes, and we couldn't put a goal in. And it's deflating, isn't it? When you're there and you just got shot after shot after shot, we couldn't stick one in. And when they finally did, it just, and then I'm talking about Loudon now. When we got to Loudon, we thought we could do it, but once they stuck one in, we just could not recover. And it was deflating. It really was. But the competition had something to do with it. Loudon and Alcoa's pretty good.
Yeah, they're okay. So we'll be back to you in just a minute, Eric, to get your first word. You lost some key pieces too last year, but kind of like Oneida and Derek Keaton, you got back the bulk of your starters. Talk about what you lost and how you're going to replace them.
Out of the middle, we lost Connor Stanley, who I guess his freshman year was COVID year. Is that right? Did we lose most of that season? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so Connor had always played. All of his siblings had played. He's just a great skill player in the middle, sees the field well. So losing him out of the middle hurt us. Nolan Cotton in the back on defense. Nolan had started defense for us last 2 years. Grew into that role. Clayton Carroll finally got some playing time. Senior did really well on defense. So losing those three hurt, but then we also graduated both keepers. So field players you can fill in, move around, because you've always got a bunch of those. And I had been blessed the last 2 years to have two keepers on the team. And if somebody goes down or somebody's not having a great game, or you can look at your competition and judge, which one you want to go with. But graduated both of those guys. So moving forward, that was probably our biggest hole to fill.
And you're kind of in the same situation Derek is in, where Nick was a junior and he graduated a year early, and Luke Bowling was a junior last year and graduated a year
Luke's
early.
Same age as the seniors this year, but he finished up early and moved on. He's working, got a job, so good for Luke.
So do you have a keeper yet?
Oh yeah, we got all kinds of them. They just don't know it yet. No, we've been working out Michael Bond back there. He came out sophomore this year. Football player, basketball player, super athletic, super quick. And other than him, I was looking at Toby or Sky, because I knew that they both, basketball players, athletic, long, strong, good reflexes, and I knew that they could fill the gap that you have in between the posts there. But we've been working Michael. I think he's going to be okay. Okay. We'll move forward with that. I did tell Toby today, I said, no, we're not training anybody else. If Michael gets hurt, I said, you're going to have to go in until he gets better, because you don't have a lot of options there. So
let's talk about the expectations. I'll start with you, since E comes before D. What are the expectations this year for your team as you look around the district and how things stack up?
District's new this year for us. I don't know how Derek's shakes out, but, Kingston moves down, so they're no longer in the district. They had always been in the district for as long as I could remember. Still on the schedule. We picked up Union County and Gibbs, and then still us, Clinton, and AC. So those three core teams are still there. We did get a game with Union County last year. Coach Calden was needing to pick up a game. We played them at home, so we did get a chance to play them. I think Gibbs pretty good at soccer. They got a lot of good athletes over there, just about any sport you look at. So I'd say they'll probably be in the mix to be at the top, if not, the top. It looks like they had a pretty good season last year. Anderson County has gotten better each year. He was pretty young. Coach Curtin was young, and then he's a good coach. He's trained them up, and a lot of those guys over there have an opportunity. Play club and different things like that, and that's all they do is soccer. You look at my guys, I've got 3 or 4 that just do soccer. Everybody else is football, basketball, and so kind of have to share. And then Clinton, I don't know how many he lost to graduation. I don't think Chris lost as many, but Gene, he's a good coach. He's got he grew a lot from year 1 to 2 last year. Recruited the hallways well, so that helped him. So it'll be interesting. I think I don't know what Union County has. I think we beat them at our place last year. I don't know what they have coming forward this year. But I do know that us and Clinton, AC, and Gibbs will be in the mix for sure.
Derek, how about it in your district? What's it looking like this year?
So Kingston dropped into our district, which is really good. We're looking forward to that. We played them last year, and they'll be coming up here this year. Eagleton dropped into our district, Greenback. So we've got those, and then you've got Rockwood and Harriman. We thought Oliver Springs, but they dropped here this past week. From that standpoint, but Kingston will be the team in that'll compete with us. Cumberland Gap dropped out of our district, so that's kind of a rivalry that's kind of went to the wayside there a little bit. And we couldn't even get them on the schedule because they were late getting it done. So ours now, in going beyond that, our schedule is the toughest that I've put together since I've been at Oneida. So we've got Halls, Carnes, Powell, Central. They're all coming to Oneida, going on the road to Sevier County, and playing some tough teams in Galtburg. So it's changed everything, and it's good. It's exciting, isn't it? When they start making these changes like this, and in ours, Alcoa and Loudon departed to AA, and so that's huge because that's who's put us. We've faced Alcoa for several years,
right.
And it's been difficult to be able to overcome that juggernaut. I mean, state runner-up should have won the state actually. They had the most talent, and so but it's exciting. I'm excited for that.
And so now you two guys, I know I can't be the only one who's curious about this. So I'm going to, Rick, since T comes before R, you go first and start firing away at Eric Henry over here. And
You've asked all the questions I had prepared.
I've only asked two.
Well,
You
you
didn't
covered
prepare
everything
enough.
right there. Well, I thought that I did because I was going to ask about the new district alignment and what you know about the district teams that you're going to be facing now. And you probably haven't played them in years previous, but what do you know about those district teams?
Well, Gibbs is the only one that I don't know much about. I just look at what their schedule was the last couple of years, and they played some good soccer. Got a chance to play Union County, but again, with high school sports, you never know. There's such a huge change from Clinton from 2 years ago to last year, so you don't really know. With students that move around or that move in or whatever, or they're just all of a sudden like, I want to go play soccer, and you find out that they're pretty good at it. So it's kind of one of those things. It's just a surprise.
What about newcomers on your team? This may be freshmen, may be the first year playing. You hadn't had a chance to play them a lot before. What about the newcomers and how they're going to help you on the team this
I have
year?
so many players on my team. I think we're down to 27. Is that right? Here you go, 27. So Derek and I have always managed to get at least one JV, if not two JV games in a season. But it's also rare because and it's the same with the girls' season. Not every team has enough to play a JV game. We usually try to get a 30-minute period in after our game or something like that. And when you play the caliber teams that's just in your district, and then you load up like Derek has, those young guys, they struggle to get on the field because, you got your first 16, 18 guys out there, and then, that's going to be the core of your minutes. So young guys, as far as parity goes, I think I've got 6 seniors, 7 juniors, 6 sophomores, and 8 or 9 freshmen. So
That's a nice balance.
It's very balanced all the way down. And freshmen, I've not been able. We didn't get to have as many practices preseason as I normally do because we had the district tournament. So my evenings were, we went from 3:30 to 4:30, and then I had to go up, and work the tournament at 5. So, and then of course you always got the wonders of weather around here. Yesterday there was water standing on the field, so we didn't get to go. So we went, today, and then tomorrow's supposed to rain most of the day again. So, you get in the time that you can. I check roll every day at practice, and I know some of these guys are wondering, what I'm doing or why. Well, when it comes time, I know who's been there the most, and those guys, the guys that are dedicated, they're going to be the ones that get the playing time when it comes available.
What do you consider as the strengths of the team, whether it be individuals or your front line, your mids, or your defenders?
Well, you look at this group of seniors that I have, Hugo Henry, Toby Garrett, Sky Babb, Peyton Smith, Andy Blevins, Hayden Blevins, those guys. I think, did Hayden play his freshman year, Hugo? Is he the only one? He did? So all of them have played all 4 years. and they all played a lot the last 2 years. Sky and Hugo started and played a lot as freshmen, and so they all have a lot of minutes on the field in different positions. You know, Toby, he moved around. He started out up front last year trying to find somebody that played a lot like Phoenix did a couple years ago when we made that sub-state run. But he and Dom really settled into the center mid the last few games of the season and really played well together. And that helped us a lot. Toby, or not Toby, but Andy and Hayden, backline guys, have been for the last 2 years. And, you know, Hayden had to fight for a little bit of playing time as sophomore. Andy got moved in there pretty quick because Andy's really fast. Mm-hmm. But, you know, Andy moving from the outside to the end is a whole different animal for those back four guys, because when you're on the outside, if you make a mistake, you got somebody to cover. If you're in the middle and you make a mistake, it's your fault. you know, if they're shooting on your keeper one-on-one. So Hayden will probably slide into the middle this year with Andy. And then, you know, Bo Sharp, he's sophomore. He played a lot of good defense for us last year. Levance Weatherford, he's a junior. He can play in the middle or in the back. He likes the middle more. But I think that's the one thing that may be our weakness, is knowing what role is going to help the team the most and taking that role on regardless of what you think or whatever, and just saying, okay, I'm going to do this because it's going to help us win games. Aiden Roberts, another junior, he's worked a lot. He's probably put on 15 pounds of muscle. He's not, you know, thin skin and bones like he was the first 2 years. As long as he's not timid like he has been the first two. You know, Aiden's a good soccer player, but when he got in the game, sometimes he was, you know, maybe thinking too much, a little bit too timid. And so I think maybe he's worked a lot on the off season. I think that's going to help. Of course, we got Hugo and Sky both leading goal scorers last year. Missing Connor in the middle. He saw the field well and let us play off of him. Great ball handler, you know, those things that you need for somebody that's going to be your technical center mid. But, you know, all the guys that will be on the field have had a chance to get a lot of minutes. So I think that's going to be our strength. As long as they can learn to play off each other and move and help each other out, get open, I think that's going to help us spread the defense out and have some goal-scoring opportunities.
Who's your assistant coach or coaches this season?
Isaac Blakely come on and is helping me this year. I asked him a couple months ago if he'd be interested, and he was in. And it's good when you got 27, because then I can split them. He's doing stuff with one group, and I'm doing stuff with another group. And then he's also helping with Michael a lot too, talking to him and showing him things. Because when Isaac played for me. When you coach as long as I have, you got kids and grandkids that come in. But Isaac was a great athlete at Scott High. You know, played football, basketball, and soccer, and he played both field and keeper. So, you know, good athlete, smart.
What 1, 2, or 3 things are you most excited about this season?
Well, as I look back, we took pictures the other day, and of those 6 seniors, I said, okay, give me my ASO kids. And Andy and Hayden didn't play ASO with me growing up from when Hugo was little, but Hugo, Sky, Peyton, Toby, all those guys had played ASO with me from when they were little at various and sundry times. Sometimes Toby was on a different team, but when they got to that U12, they were all on the same team. Landon Harness was on that team. He's a junior this year. He'll be expected to play some defense for us. Aiden Roberts, he was on one of my ASO teams at least 3 different years. So having those guys come up, and I think that moving forward, you know, they've been around me for more than just 4 years. They know what to expect and, you know, what we try to do and those sorts of things.
Or when to tune you out.
Or when to tune me out, yeah.
There you go. Tim.
All right. Similar question to Rick's first one. Do you have a newcomer, Derek, that you've had come in that you've just been really surprised? You talked about Nick putting in the work. It was nobody's surprise that he came out and did what he did. Is there somebody that you've seen here in the early going and been like, wow, this is a big difference from last year?
Everybody at Oneida and everybody in the community is going to see it pretty quickly. Miles Laxton has done phenomenally well. And he's going to come right in and fill. And you was asking about folks we were having to replace. We got 2 other guys I didn't mention. I just mentioned the seniors. But Grady is not going to be able to play this year. He's actually going to have a procedure done on his knee. which will be mid-March. So that's because he's getting ready for football next year. So we lost him, and then the other Gilbert. So he's focusing on football. And so we've got some big shoes to fill. Grady was going to be that other forward, and Miles has filled that position beautifully. He played fantastic at Grace Christian the other night, and he's a very good complement to Mason. And so, and then when you got Levi in there and George Klein, they're really helping him. So that's on the offensive end. Another young man I'm super excited about, and both of these young men are going to be starting for us, is Alex Jones. Alex Jones in that center back position has played extremely well, high skilled. These two boys are high IQ, high skilled. So we are gushing about these young men. Now there's others that's coming on, but those two in particular right now.
What about is there a point in the season in soccer that you'll know kind of what your destiny is? I mean, you look now and you have an idea. Is there the first tough road game, or what's your watermark that you're going to say this is when we'll find out who Oneida soccer is going to be?
Well, you're going to see every team you love, but this team I really love. This team is not going to be ready to go and handle everything that's coming its way in the first 5 games of this season. Okay, they're younger. We're younger in some spots,
Right.
But we're so much more skilled. And when we went to Grace Christian the other night, I would remember, and Eric would know when I say this, when you go from a grass field to a turf field, it'd take you you may never recover. It's just tough because you're like a skill hurts you. Boys never missed a beat the other night. And, before I pulled them at 0-0, and Mason had one scrimmage, and you're sitting there kind of going, this is pretty fun to watch these guys move. And so, but here's what's going to happen, Tim. We're going to play Sweetwater, pretty good team. Then we're going to go to Gatlinburg. And it's going to be eye-opening, okay? And then we're going to come back from after playing 3 tough games, and then we're going to have to go to Sevier County, and then back to Eagleton. So it's going to test our mettle right off the get-go. And I've already told the team, I'm telling you, this year, everything's about May. Everything's about May. We've got 9 seniors, okay? We've got talent all over the field. We've got more depth skill-wise than we've had. So you lose a lot, but I really like the makeup of this team. It's built from the back. And so we'll hold into these teams because we're big enough in the back and strong enough in the back to be able to handle on the defensive side, stay in these big games. But that Gatlinburg trip's going to be critical for us this year because all 3 of those teams they've slated us against are really good.
Is it a tough line to watch for between getting beaten down to where the confidence is hurt, and if so, how do you have a way to build that mental toughness or to help them with what do you do about that?
Well, as Coach Henry knows, building a schedule, it's an art, and you've got to be able to look at legs. And what we found out, me and Coach Henry have talked about this. You can't; those back-to-back games are just tough. We don't have that kind of depth, so you've got to stay away from that. And if you do, you've kind of got to know how to do that with what team. But on the front end, this one here is by far the most difficult that we've done. But I felt like we needed this team to be mentally and physically more tough because we're going to be young. So I needed it tested early. Then you'll see some games where it'll yo-yo. One game won't be very as tough, and then the next game you may be out there fighting for your lives. And but what I really want to achieve this year is this. Coach Zach Schran at Gatlinburg Pittman taught me this. He's been a big help. He helped me about building a schedule. If you're going to build a schedule to go win a state championship, you got to play AAAs. You have to play them. What it does is it makes them make quick decisions. So me and Coach Henry talked about this. When all the kids love to dribble. They love to dribble. But when you play that type of athlete and that type of skill level, they've got maybe half a second to make a decision. They've already got to know where it's going before it gets to them. And same thing basketball. It's the same concept. But in soccer, the less talent that you play, the more they dribble. The more talent you play, the quicker you got to get off your foot. And so that forces them to do that. So that last week, we go to Clinton, and then Carnes is coming here. That's designed for our district because then, when you go into that district, and it's a balance, but that schedule's laid out to get us ready for a state championship run because you still got Gatlinburg Pittman. You got Kingston in your district. Fantastic team. You got Gatlinburg Pittman in your region now. And then you've got University High and some of those teams coming down the sub-state. And so I'm not going to say the sub-state got easier. I'm going to say the sub-state got more manageable, the sectional that is. And so, but it's all tough. This year is every game when we get into district this year, there's going to be no layups. There's going to be no layups. And that's what's changed, and it's fun. That makes it good. But you've got to be mentally tough because in soccer, that one go, if it deflates you like it did, when we got in there in the Loudon game, we're fighting and fighting. I felt like we were a little soft in that area. And that's one thing I wanted to make sure I deal with this year on the front end. So, yeah, it's an art.
Like Rick said, who's your help and kind of what's their assignments?
Got lots of help. Love my staff. Starts with Phil Newport. He coaches the defense for us, and he exclusively takes them and goes. And Jimmy Barna also helps us in that area. He works with the keepers, and so they are a 1-2 combination on the defensive side. And then Jimmy also helps with some film study and skill development. Sarah Hacker, she works with ASO. She does a lot of our administrative stuff. So all of the behind-the-scenes stuff, uniform stuff, to everything dealing with anything that's technical with computerized stuff. She does all of that for me. And then Zach, he's a volunteer. He's a former player. He really helps because he coaches ASO, and it helps both of our programs. AYSO has been tremendous for me and Eric both, because when you look at all these players, almost everyone's played ASO, haven't they? Mm-hmm. And it helps them in the fall to be able to play. And that's where I got my training. I mean, I did all of my advanced training through ASO, and so that's the only way we can do it. Last year, Central came over here, and we had a parent go, how can y'all compete? That was when we tied them 2-2, and one of the parents said, well, we have ASO. Because they play club. So they're sitting here going, how can you be, this competitive out here in the sticks is what they were saying. Mm-hmm. But we can, because all these kids grew up together and play together. Mm-hmm. But thank goodness we have a strong AYSO program here in Scott County.
I just got one more question that I want each of you to take a strike at.
In there, I know that Levi and Mace played for me. Is there anybody else that played on your roster that was on one of my teams growing up? I can't remember them all.
Well, I can tell you, every one of them on the starting lineup. Gavin played ASO as an entire. Somebody's asking me the other day. A lot of these young men, Gabe, Gavin, Mace, all those, they started playing in U6. Mm-hmm. So all these young men have played soccer along. They have basketball, and they're known for basketball. But then you go into your soccer players. A lot of these guys coming up now, and I see it. Our freshmen, it's amazing to watch how much more skilled they are because of just the amount of time they spend in ASO. Mm-hmm. Tons of them.
It's clear you guys have a respect for each other, just the way you refer to each other. And so I just have one final question, and I'll ask you to answer it first, Eric, and then if you would answer. If you had Eric, if he came to your staff tomorrow, what does he do well? What is it that you see that he does well for his team, and that it would be just a great thing for you to have on your staff? And then the same question for you with Derek.
It's how he works with referees.
He has done a lot better. Rick, he's done a lot better job with his questions than you have. He's had 2 good ones.
I laid the foundation. Somebody has to get there.
I copied off of Rick for 3 questions, but thanks for the credit.
Anyway, I cut Derek off. I'm sorry. I had to get in there, Rick. Go ahead.
It's how he works the referees. That's the number one thing. No, it's Eric does a good job. They're well coached. Okay, he played college soccer, and I'm not a guy that played soccer just a little bit and learned the game. And I know when I'm going up against folks that know soccer, and that's why I've surrounded myself with good staff people. And Eric knows soccer; he knows what he's doing. I'm a culture guy. I manage culture and all those types of things. But when I come up against a coach that knows soccer and all those things, there's a lot of things we have to prepare for when we go up against Eric's teams, because he runs a lot of stuff. And so we have to have them ready to go, because he will pull them out, right, Eric?
Yeah. If the refs will let us, sometimes we're
running.
We have a couple of set pieces, and if I don't remember to tell the refs before the game, hey, we're going to do this, I've had them to call, and I'm not saying anything negative. I'm sorry if anybody's listening to TWSAA, where I'm just saying sometimes they've blown the whistle. And I'm like, what are you doing? And we can run this play once a game, and now we can't. But that's you try. Set pieces are something that when you get them, it's kind of like free throws. You need to make sure you capitalize on them. And set pieces, not just corners, but also everything else. When you have free kicks, 35 yards and in, those are things you should get a quality shot on frame with. And if you don't do that consistently, you're not going to be competitive. Stats that most everybody knows about. Goals in soccer. What was the score? Well, the first stat you really look at is possession, and then the second one you look at is your set pieces. How many did you get, and how many did you capitalize on? And if you can look at those things and say, okay, we scored on this, it was effective, we didn't run this well, and we're going to have to work on it in practice. Those are the things that you got to look at, and because I tell my guys all the time, I say, don't expect great, perfect passes from your teammates, because you're not going to get them. The movement of the game, people we play, most everybody has opportunity to play club, and so they're going to be a lot more skilled with their feet than what we are every time that we go out. So we have to play smarter and we have to play harder because we're going to be at a deficit there. The next thing is we have to capitalize on the things that we can do well when we don't have a defender right on us, and that's your set pieces. So that's what you're trying to focus on.
Tim, as long as I've known Eric Henry, and I've told him this repeatedly, he never answers a question directly. Tonight, I'm glad to see that it's not just me that he does that too, because he didn't even answer your question.
He hasn't asked me.
Let me ask you. Well, I'll ask you this way. Marv West, I helped him the first years he coached middle school. I helped him, and he identified. He said, "Here's how Tim can help me." And he said, "Take the sixth graders down to the other end." Okay, so now you've got Derek on staff. What are you having Derek do?
Well, he's going to be my culture guy, obviously, because but no, he was naming all the stuff that Sarah does, and he's got, which I have Isaac this year to help, and that's great because with 27, I wouldn't be able to manage that many. So a lot of the things that he's listing that Sarah does, those are things that I'm already doing and have done for 25 years. And it's just a juggling act. You have to learn how to do those things. Now, if you get somebody like Derek Keaton in, you have them to come in and you have them work with your offense and your midfield, and you have him to get those guys working on how to move the ball up the field in small field spaces, small games within the game, and that's one of the things that Oneida does well. So I think you plug him in and then give me a chance to work with the defense and the keeper more.
Guys, I had more questions to ask you, but we're out of time, and we've got to stay on schedule.
Well, something's good, Ben. You just go with it. I mean,
yeah, well, we got baseball coaches that are waiting in the wings, and
Sean and Darryl both told me they didn't really care.
It's amazing how quickly half an hour passes when you're having fun, isn't it? No, listen, you're in action this Saturday at Anderson County, and you're going to start things off in the morning with the JV game against Clinton at 10 a.m., and then you'll play David Crockett at 10:30 and Clinton at noon. And both of you guys are in action at Scott High School the 1 week from Saturday, and the action down there gets underway at 10. That's going to be a JV game between your two teams at 10 o'clock that morning. Then both of you will play two games throughout the day. So
I would like to make a
Go ahead.
PSA on Saturday for next week. The rain looks like it's going to get us most days next week a little bit, and the ground's already saturated. There's a really good chance that we will play the first half of the day, maybe on the soccer field, do our skills, and then we may move the second half to the football field because I've already got the goals over there. I just have to paint it, and that'll help us to not be playing in a lot of mud the second half of the day because the field will, the grass is coming on, but,
Real quickly, I was going to ask you that, so I'm glad you brought it up. Your plan this year is to play your home games on which field?
Yeah, both of them.
Like I said, he never answers a question directly.
You got any more questions like that for him?
Forget it. Just
ask me some more open-ended questions, Ben, because we'll see how
the season opens for you guys, the regular season, on Thursday, March the 14th for Scott High against Northview Academy. That is a home game. And on March the 12th, that's a Tuesday night, Sweetwater for Oneida. That's also a home game. So good luck to both of you guys this season, and we encourage everybody to get out starting next Saturday at Scott High School. Everybody get out and support these two teams. We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to switch to baseball right after this. We're back on the roundtable live from the C. Michael A. Technology Center in Helenwood with Tim Smith and Rick Keaton. I'm Ben Garrett, and now we switch gears and switch over to baseball, and we're going to be joined by Scott High assistant coach Darryl Bowles and new Oneida head coach Sean West. And I use the word new. I guess that's a relative term, Sean. You're new for your second go-around, I guess.
I like to be called new as old as I am.
Well, I didn't know that I would see you coaching baseball again. And some
Me
of my,
neither, buddy.
in 20-plus years of watching local high school sports, your team's run to the state tournament, what has it been now? Tell us how long ago that's been.
It was 2015.
2015, so 9 years. It doesn't seem that long ago.
Don't seem that long.
But, man, that was a fun time. And the year before we did the district tournament from Bear Creek, and those were good times. So, anyway, I'm glad to see that you're back on the, I don't know, what do you call it? You're back on third base now, right?
Yeah, I'm back on third base.
All right. So let's start off. Darryl, start with you. And let me say first that Joe Carver is the head coach at Scott High, and he couldn't be here because he's tending to family matters tonight. He went to see his granddaughter's dance recital, I think. Yeah. And so we understand that. So we've got you, and we're going to make do. No, I'm kidding. Thank you for joining us, though, and talk to us about your team this year.
Well, 18 kids, better than last year. We had 12. A lot of guys fell off at the end of last year. This year we got some new freshmen coming in, have some promise. Bad thing is junior high, didn't have enough players to play this year. So we picked up a new assistant coach, Matt Williams, which was the head coach of the junior high team for Scott. And he'll be helping our pitchers out and the catchers. Looking forward to having him. Looking forward to having, helping out Coach Carver. He's a good guy. He knows what he's doing with scheduling, getting the things done, getting everything taken care of to get us ready to get on the field.
So last year, you mentioned you guys had 12.
Yeah.
And by the end of the season, it was tough. I mean, you got to have that set number that magic number is 11. You got to have 11 kids in the lineup. And it was tough to play a game. And so has that take a load off your mind this year, having those extra kids to plug in?
Absolutely. The extra kids help out. Actually got 2 kids coming in. One moved from New York here. The other kid moved from Ohio. I believe they'll help out right away.
So are those NIL deals? Is that what they did? Got them out of the transfer portal?
Is his last name Jeter?
Yeah, no. Last year going back, it was a rough year. I mean, we didn't have any extra pitchers. I mean, we had to watch it carefully. This year, we've worked through the summer, fall, getting these guys ready. I believe that they're going to come back and, have a good season. Better than we have in the past, I believe.
And Sean, let me turn to you.
Yes,
and by the way, he mentioned Matt Williams, and remember
Yeah,
I talked about that run.
I'll take him back now.
Matt Williams was a big part of that run for Oneida. He's the ace
Absolutely.
pitcher back in the day. But anyway,
5 pitches. He can throw anything anywhere you wanted him to.
yeah. So 2 months ago, Sean, you probably didn't anticipate being in this position, but here you are, and I know by now you've had an opportunity to, you know what you've got to work with. So
yes, sir.
Tell us about your team.
Relatively young team. They've got we got 3 seniors. Our 3 seniors is Caden Rector, which is a very solid ball player. He's and he's been coached well. He's grown up playing the sport. He's a fantastic young man, and you guys know, you've seen him play basketball and you've seen him play football. He's good at anything he does. And he is everything he is in those sports, he is in baseball as well. And I think he would argue that it is his best sport, and he is a very, very solid ball player. But again, I'm just now getting eyes on him, just now working with him. We're getting used to each other. We also have a senior in Kobe Tyra, very strong-armed outfield type guy. He pitches really well. I've been very, very impressed with his arm strength. One of the things that I was extremely concerned about, because Darryl talked about working, we did arm conditioning when I was a coach. We didn't quit much. We threw year round. We hit whenever we was allowed to by TWA rules. We did what we were supposed to do, but we did everything we could do to get them out there hitting, swinging, whatever we could do, open facility, whatever we could do, we did year round. And for these boys to already have the arm strength they have in the 3 weeks we come back together here, Kobe Tyra and all these boys. The other one is Cayman Sexton. He's a senior we have as well, working his tail off. He's the kind of kid that he's the first guy on the field and the last guy to leave. If you need something done, he's the guy that's going to do it. He is a utility guy that'll do anything you ask him to do, and they're just great kids. Have really, really solid pitching out of a lot of those younger boys that's in there. There's some young fellas that's coming in that I just didn't anticipate. When you hear me talk about people in the past like Cole West and Clay Jeffers, and I can even go all the way back to Tyler Jeffers catching for me, but then you get into Jonathan and Wilson and Fidge Jeffers and those guys. These are the kind of catchers we got with Brock Ryan, and there's a new kid named Elijah Strunk. Really, really solid boys that's been playing baseball, and there should be a compliment said to having good, solid middle school baseball, and also for having Little League baseball and people working year-round with it, and to actually be able to go up there and to start day one on throwing baseball and balls not hitting the wall. I remember my first day at practice, I said, we're not having practice tomorrow until we figure out what else we're going to throw. We're going to break backboards in this gym and with baseballs. And so these guys are ahead of the game, and so that's pretty good to say for the past coaching staff to have them ready to go like this. I'm very, very pleased with where they are.
And real quickly, Darryl talked about Matt Williams joining the staff at Scott High. What is your staff going to look like at Oneida?
Well, I've kept on. Nate Brennan is going to continue to help me, and he has been a fantastic guy, knowledgeable, knows what he's doing. He's also somebody that he's the kind of person you want to have around your kids. Very, very rock solid guy. I hadn't been around him a whole lot, just knew him a little bit through his son playing football. Really, really good man. And I'm very, very proud to have him helping me. And this week we've hired Jacob Hamilton to come in also to help me. He's going to help me with coaching pitching. He's going to help me with helping the first basemen out and just helping me with the catchers and different stuff there and keep it moving around. And that should shore me up to have everything I need to be able to run a pretty good practice.
Now, you know Nate Brennan is a Notre Dame fan.
That is one problem I have with it.
Yeah, I don't know if you can call someone rock solid when they're a Notre Dame fan.
Yeah. Well, it is.
No,
rock.
Nate's okay. He's okay.
Rock, yeah.
So I don't even know where to start here because Eric Henry said that Tim asked better questions than Rick.
I'm going to defer to Rick.
Yeah,
I'm
so
gonna defer to Tim.
Because all I did was copy Rick's
Oh,
questions,
okay.
so I need that again, Rick.
I think
go.
when something's working, you stick with it. So Rick's going to go first.
Well, thank you very much, I guess. Both of you have this same thing to deal with this year. Sort of a new district alignment. One of the teams that you pick up in the district just happens to be the defending state champion in Union County. It was a different classification.
2A, yes.
Yeah, but still, the strength of that team, even though their coach left to take I'm assuming a better job someplace else, they're like that. But talk about the new district and those teams that you're going to be facing this year.
Well, you got to remember Gibbs. They won it 2 years ago in our classification, so we're going back into the gauntlet. Anderson County, Clinton. We pick up Cumberland Gap, Gibbs, and Union County also. So, yeah, looking back, baseball's pretty good in the Knoxville area. Last year with Halls, they had a really good facility, really good team. So, it's back into it.
Yeah, it doesn't get any easier just because you change around. You got a new district alignment.
No,
it's
it
probably
doesn't.
tougher. Yeah. You talked about the roster a while ago. Who
Right.
do you perceive as the leaders on the team on this bunch you've got?
Well, my boy Jesse Bowles, he is the absolute leader on the team. He's a cut up, but he is the absolute leader on that team. Jerome Bird, he's our center fielder. Really good guy. He's the guy that we had to bring up, let me say it like this, as a baby baseball player.
Right.
He started his sophomore year, never touched a baseball in his life. And he is absolute speed on the bases, speed in center field, good player for us to have.
Most things dealing with baseball and softball, for that matter, we talk about up the middle. Let's talk about pitcher, catcher, shortstop, center fielder.
Oh, boy. Well,
you didn't see that one coming, did you?
Well,
man?
has to do with who's on the mound for us because,
Right.
That three-way place. I've got a third baseman can pitch Dakota Strunk. He'll be starting at third base unless he's pitching.
Right.
Jesse at shortstop. Jerome will be out in center field. Josh Burge will be behind the plate. And unless he's pitching, we'll that's the problem. We have pretty much one catcher, and we're trying to train three right now. So, that's trying to train a catcher and get them game ready. It's hard to do. We had a kid, Mason Llewellyn, last year, come up and caught a couple games for us to give Josh a breather. It's JT, Jonathan Terry. He's another pitcher we have will be playing second base.
And catcher, if you're a natural as a catcher, those are very, very rare. So you have to put a lot of work in with a catcher.
There's a lot of work into a catcher.
This is before your guys' time. Well, Sean, he's close to my age. Not really. But we talk about the catcher and the tools of ignorance. when you put on the chest protector, the face mask, the shin guards, and everything like that, that is a tough position to get somebody that doesn't turn their head all the time, and that's the person that has to line the team out on the field too.
Well, you're right there, because the catcher's the only person that can see the whole field. You know, he's the guy. He's the man. Usually, he's the man. If he knows what he's doing, he can align. He can do anything he needs to from behind the plate.
How about speed, base running? What does that look like team-wise?
Team-wise, we probably have a quarter of the guys out there that have some pretty good speed out of the 18. Of course, you got the big guys, the big linemen that play football on the line. You know, Dakota. I wouldn't ask him to steal a base unless it was.
And third base is perfect for him. I mean,
yeah, third base. I mean, he's a big boy. He can handle it over there. He's got a good arm to throw it across the diamond. So yes.
What steps are you as the coaching staff, Coach Carver and yourself and Coach Williams doing to hopefully increase the run production this year? How much time can you spend batting cage-wise or practice time that you can put into that to help with the run production?
Well, we got the facility, which is a good thing, right next to the baseball field. You know, used to they'd run out to Helenwood, one of the buildings out there. They had a batting cage in there, but we've purchased a couple of new pitching machines. Got what they call a strong arm. It holds 600 balls, and they just flip a switch and go at it. The only thing is, it's just fastballs.
Right.
The other three-wheel machine we have, it will absolutely throw anything you want it to. So, but the thing we see, you know, the speed difference, you know, you really need to see the pitchers come in and watch them before the game, and the timing is important. Timing is really important for them to catch up. Sometimes, you know, if you've been practicing 80, 90 miles an hour, you know, and run down, you get a pitcher that's pitching, you know, junk at 60, 65 miles an hour, you know, it takes them a little bit of time to get used to it.
As you rate the infield and then outfield separately, how good a defensive team will you have on the field?
From the inter-team scrimmage we have, I'm pleased with it. We've held the runs down to a minimum. So, I mean, it's been like 1-2, 2-2, you know, that type of thing. But, you know, we're trying to get everybody in, freshmen, you know. We're trying to get, you know, a mix of players in so the older guys can teach the younger guys what they need to do. Because the guys coming up from junior high, the 3 or 4 that is coming up from the junior high ranks this past year, it is a big difference going from the speed of high school versus junior high.
What 2 or 3 players do you have that really have to step up and create production, be good at the plate, be able to make contact with the ball, and hopefully drive in runs?
I would say right now our catcher, Josh Burge, he needs to step it up. I mean, he is a good plate guy. I mean, he can hit the ball hard. He just needs to learn to make contact. Jesse, he was really good, made all-district his freshman year. Sort of slid off the last couple years at the plate. We tried a few different things, you know, with his swinging, and it didn't help him any. So it sort of hindered him. And I think he's been almost every day at the facility hitting.
From a pitching standpoint, let's backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
From a pitching standpoint, are y'all right-handed, or I think you probably got at least one left-handed pitcher, don't you?
We have 2 lefties.
2 lefties, okay.
We got Micah, my other son, and then Adam over here. He's on the team as a freshman, and then Jerome Bird. They're only 2 lefties.
So you think the pitching will be better because these, especially your sons, because they're another year older, another year stronger?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, pitching where it's at. I mean, if you can strike them out and sit them down, you go through a game pretty quick.
can you foresee, and I know this is a tough question, can you foresee improving the record from last year, having a better chance to compete district-wise and on the rest of your schedule?
Well, it was pretty hard last year going from the district we were in, which, Sean here will be going into the district we used to be in with Alcoa. Now, we didn't have, I think, Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg-Pittman in that district, but if I'm not mistaken, that's part of their district this year. Is that correct, Sean?
Yes.
Okay. Alcoa, their head coach, and his name is slipping my mind. But
when I was there, it was done. I don't know.
It is still done.
Still done.
It's still done. So he played professional ball, Minnesota Twins. So they've got it over there. They're not unbeatable. We had them on the ropes a couple times a couple years ago, but just never could get over the finish line with them.
Would that be a fair question for me to ask Sean too?
Mm-hmm.
You're just back in coaching. I don't know how much you've paid attention the last 2 or 3 years, but what do you think about the new district that you're in?
Well, the new district's going to be extremely hard. All right, I'm just telling you, we're stepping up, and we have played Alcoa before. When I was coaching, we played them 4 times. I think we was 2-2 against them. We played them over in a doubleheader over in their place, and they are excellently coached. They're a very, very good baseball team. And even if I think we played a game where we had no errors and lost 5-4, and another game we had 1 error and we lost. I think it was 3-2, and over at their place. And they just don't make mistakes. They're very, very solid. And that's the same year. I think their pitcher's a guy that went over to UT and played at UT that year. I can't think of his name now. Redmond. I think he was over. I think he didn't pitch against us. He played first base today. He played against us, but anyways, it is a whole nother world for us to be playing in this district, and it is something that we got to be ready to go. We can't make and I've not worked. You're talking about all the hitting and stuff. I've had time to work on the hitting like I need to be, but what we have been working on is trying to be error free. And you can't win baseball games if you make errors.
Sure.
And so, and our goal is pitching staff is, I'm not as concerned about striking people out. I want people to put the ball in play. I want my guys to pitch as little as they possibly have to, and we want to get outs at first base. That's our goal.
Tim?
What about, and just staying on that theme, so pitching-wise, how's your rotation?
We have this is something that I can tell you the former coaching staff has left us in a pretty solid place as far as that goes. I got a big lefty in Frazier who can hum the ball, and I've been very, very impressed with the day we let some boys throw live balls at our boys. Today is the first day we actually hit a batter, and so that means our control is a lot better than I was expecting it to be without no more work than they've had at throwing. We've got young Brock Ryan's coming in, sling the ball really well. We've got, like I told you, Kobe Tyler's going to be pitching. I've got a young Sexton boy, Ben Sexton, can really hum a curveball. And all these boys throw good curveballs. They got good change-up stuff. They've been trained well on what they're supposed to do up to this point. But back to what we're saying about record-wise, you don't win ball games if you make a bunch of errors. And when I first started coaching, one of the things that always bothered me, we'd make it 1-2 innings, all right, get to third or fourth inning, and then we'd have an error fest and throw the game away. And so I get a little obsessed with being a perfectionist on going through routine outs, and that's what we work on pretty much every day.
What about offensively, putting runs on the board? Are you going to be a big hit team, or are you going to play small ball?
Well,
what's the plan?
Believe it or not, I had to pitch BP the other day, and Frazier knocked one over the fence. And I've not had that happen very often in a practice as slow as I throw a baseball. And so he crushed it over the field, and I was pretty impressed with that. But they're like I said, there is big bats in Caden Rector. There's big bats in Brock Ryan. There's big bats in. And, I mean, I can go down this list and just tell you, this new boy, this freshman fella, his name's Elijah Strunk. He does not look like a freshman. There's some new boys popping into here, like Colton Searcy has been a surprise to me on how well that he's come out there and been playing ball. But, I mean, there's some people returning like Caleb Reagan that's that's I think someone that can hit a baseball. But like I said, I don't know. And there's a young fella named A.J. Harper that he does everything right. Yeah. Everything right. And he sees the baseball very well. And I hate not to go through here and name names, and I find myself doing this, but there's a young fella like Ethan Shoemaker's boy has really impressed me. He's been hurt a little bit, and I got a young lefty that's playing there, a boy named Ryder Watson that just seems to be a natural first baseman who's going to get there. And there's just a lot of stuff there that we can put together. Chad's boy, Cannon's there, and I mean, not just Creighton West is a young boy that's coming in there, and I don't want to leave anybody out, but we got 22 ball players, and I'd hate to leave anyone out, but they're everybody working their tail off to get better. I can't guarantee we're going to put up a bunch of runs, but my goal is going to be, again, is try to keep someone from putting up runs.
So now I want to ask you, you're kind of you have utility men in baseball. You're kind of a utility man for Oneida. I mean, whatever they ask you to do, you do.
Yes, sir.
And you come through. And I mean, it's a big thing. You come through for these kids to make sure that they've got a great opportunity to do these things.
Well,
and whether it's football, basketball, baseball, I mean, you care enough to go out there and do that.
Yes, sir.
And I want to say nobody, and these guys don't need my endorsement. Joe Carver, Daryl, and of course I had a son that played for you, Sean,
yes,
back in those days. And these kids this time of year, especially when you get your juniors and seniors, they're out of the house a lot. They're with their friends. You probably have more influence on these kids than their parents do, at least for these 2-3 months. And how fortunate all the parents in this county are to have you guys be the ones that are in their lives at this time. They're very lucky because Daryl's a Mr. Baseball guy to me, and I mean and Sean, you too. And so I wanted to say that. Like I say, they don't need my endorsement. People know that, but I just want to point that out because that's a lot of time that those kids are spending, and these guys do it right. And I wish you the best of luck this year.
All right, guys, we are, believe it or not, we are just about 11 days from the start of the regular season. Of course, preseason is going on right now, but Scott High gets started. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just have one more.
Yes, sir.
And it's one more question for Sean, okay?
No problem.
And Sean, that is, what is the greatest soft rock song in history, and why is it Danny's song? And will you sing that right now for everybody like you do in class?
In the morning when I rise. That's it.
We didn't get the whole thing. Sorry, Ben. I meant to remember to ask that.
I was going to sing along with you there if you went further. But.
Well,
I don't know why. I just something I always like singing.
If Sean's going to sing, then Daryl's got to sing, right? Is that how that works? March 11th is opening day, and Scott High starts with a home-and-home series against Carter. That first one will be on the road, and then they come right back to your place on Tuesday the 12th. I'm sorry, I'm looking. Oneida starts with Carter.
Let me get out of here.
On March 11th and March 12th. First one is on the road, and then you play Carter at home on March 12th. And, Daryl, as you said, you got Jellicoe first up, and that first game on Monday, March 11th, will be at home.
Will it be at home?
So,
looking forward to it.
Yeah, so if you want to get out and support these two teams, Scott High plays their games down at the John Yancey Park, and Oneida plays at Bear Creek, and so you're not going to have to wait long. First series of the season, these guys will have a home game. It all gets started on March the 11th. Let's take a break. Daryl, Sean, thank you guys for joining us. When we come back, we're going to switch to softball after this. Welcome back to the Roundtable on the IH Sports Network. We are live from the C. Michael Lay Technology Center in Helenwood. We've been through soccer, we've been through baseball, and now we're going to switch over to softball. And let me point out, I think I may have mentioned this earlier, Oneida had a scrimmage at Campbell County tonight. So if you're wondering why that we don't have Coach Burris sitting over here, that's why. But we are joined by Coach Grant Markham from Scott High School. This is your first year as the head coach of the softball program, right? But you were kind of the head coach last year.
Second.
Okay, so it is your second full year. Okay, so both of you guys obviously know Grant, and he's a Scott High guy now, Rick. But it wasn't too long ago, Tim, that you were calling his games, and so on the basketball floor. So let's start off, Grant, by just talk about your team, and obviously you've been involved with the program now for 3 years in all. Maybe longer than that?
4, I think.
4,
yes.
Okay. So you know these girls.
I do.
So talk about your team.
We got 21 girls this year, which, I mean, that's normally what I end up with by the end of the year. We always have a lot of kids that like, hey, we want to try this out. And they sign up, and then maybe, hey, this ain't for me, so on and so forth. We started with like 36 a couple of weeks ago, and then it kind of dwindled. We're down to about 21, and I really like the team. They have fun with it. Experience-wise, we're not really there as far as what the other teams in our district is going to look like, but I do think that they're wanting to really work and really kind of learn from me and my couple of assistants that I've been having up with us. So we got 3 seniors. That's what I've got. Zoe Price, she's been there since I started. So she's kind of, I've seen her all the way from her freshman year up to now, and she's grown so much, not just in the game, just as a person. Great to be around. You know Zoe. We've been around her a lot. She's a basketball girl too. Abby Hearn, who is not a Scott High, she's homeschooled, but she's been there all 4 years as well. So we've got a couple of experienced seniors, and then the third one's Gracie Frazier. She started last year a little bit, and then she had some stuff come up with work, so she wasn't able to actually play during the season. But she's came back this year, and she's been great to have and fun to be around. So I've got 3 seniors, but other than that, big junior class, bigger freshman class. That's kind of where we're looking at now.
Let me ask you real quick before Rick and Tim start to fire questions at you. We talked a little bit a minute ago about how the middle school baseball program, unfortunately, they're not going to be able to have a team this year, and that is so critical to the development for the high school level. What do you know about the middle school softball program, and where does it stand right now?
I know they have a team. They were supposed to play tonight, but with the rain we got yesterday, the field, it wasn't having it. We're having a real hard time with the field right now, being in that same problem that the football team has, same problem that the baseball team has, just the drainage problem. It's really bad, especially down third base. Me and Daryl have been working on that a lot, and my mom, I want to shout out to her too. She's out there every time we go. I really appreciate that. And like I said, Daryl, he's been the biggest help to me. I know I played the sport, baseball my whole life. Never had to really deal with working on the fields before, and it is a pain, to say the least. But, yeah, the middle school was supposed to play tonight, but with that they missed out. And I went to one of their practices to just kind of see, after our practice, see what they got. They have a lot of kids out there, a lot. I know a lot come from Huntsville because their coach is from Huntsville, Tracy. But they've got looks like a pretty good 8th grade class too. I know a couple of them played last year, and I got a couple from last year's team that are coming up, and I think 1 or 2 of them might go ahead and be a pretty impact player pretty soon.
Rick?
I ask all the other coaches, so I shouldn't exclude you on this, Grant. New district. What do you think about the district you're in this year? And of course, the perennial power Gibbs is now in the district.
Yes, and that's what I was going to bring up firsthand was Gibbs. I mean, whenever we went to, and some of the basketball girls was there too that I've got on the softball team, we walked into Gibbs when we were playing at Gibbs, and their softball girls were in there.
Yeah, we were up there on the.
They were walking out, and their coach, she's awesome. I mean, obviously, her numbers and their championships speak for themselves. Mm-hmm. But she was walking in there, and they had just kind of got together, and they'd had tryouts, and I was like, that's foreign to us around here. We don't have that. Like, right. I'm just trying to scrap in, get girls to come play, right? And
we take everybody that wants to play.
Yeah, and she had just said, hey, congratulations on being a Gibbs Lady Eagle, and I was like, wow. The culture is just different in Knoxville area, and that's the same with baseball. You'll talked about that as well. The culture is just different there. They got a lot of stuff, and then we add Union County and Gap. I don't know a whole lot about Union County. I didn't watch them any last year. I saw Gap play a little bit at our play day at Oneida last year, but I didn't get to watch like in depth and really put it to memory. I didn't know we were going to have them in our district or anything, but. I'm excited to see those two. Gibbs kind of takes the place of Halls. Halls was really good last year, so I'm thinking they're probably about the same level. I mean, it's right there. I think Gibbs beat them last year, if I recall looking at scores. So Gibbs is a really good team. I'm expecting to be. I mean, it's going to be some tough competition.
Indeed, it is. You talked about your seniors and the experience that you've got coming back. Who do you perceive right now as team leaders?
Zoe Price. obviously she's played a lot of ball, and she's she's going to talk, right? Zoe likes to talk a lot. And so she's kind of a big voice as far as a leader on the team. And then Abby, like I said, she's been there since day one. I know she don't go to school with them at Scott High, but they all respect her because she can play. I mean, she's played for the last 3 years for sure. Played a lot of ball. She's very quiet, more of, hey, she's just going to do the work and work through it. And then we got the junior class like Connor, Morgan, Kenley Frog, Brittany, and Brittany's not going to talk a whole lot either. But this junior class has played the majority of what everybody else has played. I mean, they had to get thrown into the fire last year with very little experience. So I'm hoping for a step up this year is what I'm hoping from compared to last year. But
how about pitching, and who can you put in the circle from game to game to game?
And that goes with that junior class because really the only two I had pitching last year was Morgan Hooks, who I expect to be pitching a lot this year, and Connor Hudson. Hopefully not making Connor pitch as much this year. She likes to kind of sit at third, and she holds that down pretty well. And with her knee problems from basketball and stuff, that ain't an easy thing to do. But Morgan, like I said, I threw her in the fire pretty bad last year. She had never pitched ever, pretty much. And she had to pitch like 20 games last year, and that's not obviously something I'd like to do, but we were at that position. That's what we had to do if we wanted to play games. So I think she's looked a lot better in these first couple weeks from last year. She's got the experience. I think she's kind of relaxed a little bit. I think she was really nervous last year. Like I said, never even started, and now she's thrown into pitching. It's not easy. If nobody's ever tried that, go try to pitch a softball. It's a lot easier throwing it overhanded than it is underhanded. I can guarantee that. But in Gracie Frazier, she has some experience pitching in the past, and I've been working with her and a couple of freshmen, so we'll see. Like I said, Morgan Hooks is probably going to do the majority of it, but other than that, I was just going to see who can step up.
Hey, another change you've got. You talked about working on the field and preparing it for the season and keeping it good, but you got lights this year. Mm-hmm. What does that mean for you in terms of, hey, we don't have to start so early, or we can play double headers there and get those in without having to worry about dark 30 sitting in on us?
Yeah, I mean, that's big, and like I said, I really want to thank the school system and everybody that was involved in getting that. Coach Wright was also there with me when we were getting it. He really kind of fought for that for these girls. So I really want to say thanks to Coach Wright as well. But yeah, like you said, obviously now we can play a doubleheader. I think I've got one scheduled for the end of the year against Clark Range. So we've got a doubleheader availability, and then also we always started at 5:30.
Right.
And like every other school is a 6 o'clock start around that time for the most part. So it at least makes the girls feel it's a little bit more normal. And I mean, we were one of the few, definitely in our district, that didn't have any lights and so on. And that's why I said me and Daryl that we've been working on the field. I mean, we've got it aligned perfectly, got it lasered, got it fixed. The field wasn't the way it was supposed to be. So hopefully, and just year in and year out, we're going to make it improvements because I think these kids deserve it. I mean, we're going to all these other nice facilities. We need to make ours the best possible it can be.
I agree with that. Defensively, if you could name people that's going to be starting on the infield and outfield for you, have you got that far yet, or still trying to figure out all the pieces?
I wouldn't say 100%. The ones that we had last year, Connor, like I said, at third base. First base, we lost first base, we lost a shortstop, and we lost Riley Price, who was our catcher. And as in first base, Abby Hearn played a lot of first base last year with Sydney Blaker, who I graduated. So Abby's kind of sliding to the catcher. She played a little bit of catcher last year too with Riley, and Riley could kind of play anywhere. So we were really looking at filling first base, shortstop, and right field. That's kind of what we were looking at filling, and not 100% sure on that. Brittany Morrow, maybe shortstop, maybe outfield. I know she wants to stay outfield, but we got to do what we got to do. She's a great athlete, got a good arm, so we'll have to see where that is. I've got some other new kids coming in, like I said, not just freshmen, but maybe a couple that are coming in that are just their first year playing here at Scott High, and they might have a spot out there that we can kind of fill them in. It's just it's competition every day, and whoever's playing good then let's give them a chance. Let's let them play.
Is it more important for you to have defense, or do you got to get the people with the sticks? You got to get them at the plate and try to get hits, improve the scoring production this year.
Yeah, obviously we would prefer both, but we've really, historically in the last 4 years that I've been there, the sticks have kind of been what's got it done because my first year there was Julia Butts and them senior year.
Right.
I was an assistant for Coach Wright, and we had lost to Kingston by probably a combined 25 runs in the regular season in 2 games. And then we get to play them first round in the district tournament up at Alcoa, and we just explode. And I think we end up winning 18-15 or something like that, something crazy. But, like, the bats are really going to make them more confident, and I think that's going to make the defense play better. Our struggle last year, like I said, pitching is king. You said that with baseball too. Pitching, that's what matters.
In softball, pitcher catcher,
by far, I agree. It's by far. I mean, you can't play without it. So, and we had Elena Duncan for so long, and she would have just pitched strikes, and that's all we asked for. And that's kind of what I'm asking Morgan to do. I don't need nobody to strike anybody out. Like, if that happens, awesome. We'll take that every day. But I just want pitch to contact. Let them hit the ball, pitch strikes, and let our defense play. And then we're going to at least have a chance in every game. That's what Elena kind of gave us, and I really think Morgan is going to buy into that, and I think she's going to be good this year and be able to do that.
I think that sounds very exciting, that you're able to have the confidence. Let them go up to the plate, swing at the ball, put it in play, see what happens. I think that's an important facet with softball. It sure is.
Oh, I definitely have questions.
Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So, one, about this pitching thing. I mean, it's always boggled my mind to see the girls' underhanded softball pitch. Can you do that yourself, or if you have to teach somebody to do that, who's your go-to to train? And I'm sure the middle school's developing it, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about that, because I'm like you. It's something I've always looked at and thought, how in the world does this happen?
I mean, it's extremely difficult, right? I mean, and can I do it? Not the way I would like to, right? I've tried, because I've been I was like, we gotta figure out a picture. I need to know how to do this. And I mean, I got to where I was pretty all right, pretty consistent. But as you know, all of my first cousins pitched up in Oneida. Right. Allie, Kaylee,
really
Whitney,
well.
all of them. Yes, very well. Delaney, literally every single one of them pitched. And my mom pitched. So last year I brought my mom in quite a few times to kind of help, which, I mean, she wasn't like a pure pitcher like my cousins were. But she came in and helped a lot. And then for the most part, Morgan has went with a trainer for in the off season and stuff like that. But I've kind of taught myself and talking to my cousins. Like I talk to Whitney every once in a while. She's helping with Oneida Middle School now. I think she is the head coach at Oneida Middle School now. So yeah, I'll ask anybody. I understand that I'm not going to be the best at pitching. I never done it, right? So I'll just reach around, like I said, get my mom to come in, just get anybody to come in and help with us. Yeah, it's been tough. It's been hard.
The thing about excuse me, Tim. The thing about pitching is people that really haven't watched softball a lot. There's more than just straight line pitching. I mean, you can develop curves. You can develop backup sliders, drop balls, change-ups. I mean, there's a whole lot more to pitching than just winding up and throwing it. And so that's what makes it tough, because a good pitcher has to have a pretty good repertoire.
Yes,
pitches.
100%. And like I said, Morgan had never really done it. And until last year, and I just threw her in there as a sophomore because, I mean, she showed some promise and she was willing to do it, and that's what I really appreciate about her. Also helps she's left-handed, so it makes it a little awkward. We didn't see many left-handed pitchers last year, but this is not something you can just go out there and do. It's not, and we saw that last year. So I'm hoping that year of experience and just kind of more confidence will help her a lot, because the other pitchers we're facing in our district, they've been pitching since they were 5.
Yeah.
And that's, like I said, that's what it takes to be good in this game. It's a tough game. It's very skilled.
And if we was to tell people, they're used to maybe baseball pitchers, and there are a limited number of pitches you can go out in a practice session, whatever. But a good softball pitcher probably needs to throw 300, 400, 500 pitches a day in practice just to develop the speed and arm strength, because there's some pressure on the shoulders, but they handle it real well, and the recovery time is real quick for them.
And it's different as in baseball. There is no pitch count that you like, oh, I pitched on Monday, I can't pitch Tuesday, because it's that natural motion and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, you got to pitch a lot. It's all repetition, whereas baseball, can't do that. I mean, you legally cannot do that because you're going to tear some shoulders, tear some elbows, and all that kind of stuff. But, yeah, it is harder. It just takes more and more repetition, just like shooting a basketball, right? I mean, the best ones are the ones that shoot it a lot and go and do work on their own, and like I said, in the offseason, she's worked. So I'm really hoping we see some results this year. That's great.
Has there been any other thing in softball that you weren't prepared for it being such a difference, whether it's strategy or the size of the field or something, that you came to it and you were like, man, I'm really going to have to rethink how these games are played differently?
Yes, and the big thing for me, which I know you watched us play a lot because I graduated with Cal, one of my best friends still is to this day, is I really like to steal. I like to steal bases. I like to get leads. That don't happen in softball. Right. The field's so small, you can't take leads and stuff. And that to me, I mean, I understand why that's not, but it's just so different. So with that, we got to get used to, you're going on the pitch and you're moving like that. So it's a whole different strategy than taking leads. It's not really a live ball until they release it.
They can't leave the base until the pitch is released.
Yes. Yeah, it's not a live ball until they pitch it. Like, you can't just steal and jump, whereas in baseball, it's pretty much live the whole time, pickoffs and all that stuff. So that's the biggest part of the game. That was the difference to me personally.
So you've got a daughter. What position are you grooming her for already? I know you're already thinking about it.
Well, I guess I better get her to practice pitching. She can play everything else.
Okay.
Get her to. I mean, thinking about it like that is, if she can pitch, cool. If they don't need her to pitch, she can play anywhere else. Because I know how to teach everything else very well. So.
All right. You talked about your mother, and I know you probably had your mother as a Little League coach. I know your brother did, Reese, because Daniel and Reese played for her. She didn't do a very good job with Daniel, I'm going to tell you that. But who was the best Little League coach you ever had? I mean, because you had your mother, and then I'm sure there were other really good ones.
It would probably be I don't know if you know him. His name's Tim Smith. And he was probably the best Little League coach that I ever had growing up.
This Tim Smith or some of the other four Tim Smiths we know?
This very one. No, but seriously, I mean, I really did think that we had a really good time and we really did learn. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about.
That team was loaded. All I had to do was
fill out the lineup.
Send them out there. That's exactly right. That was the team that turned into part of Sean West's state-run team. So last thing I want to ask you, and this is another throwback for both of us. So, Yankee fan?
I don't dislike them. I'm a big Jose Ramirez guy. So I like watching the Guardians a lot. So, no, I'm not really as much of a Yankee fan.
So Grant actually caught a Major League fly ball. I saw him do it. We were in Atlanta. It was batting practice, and the Orioles and Braves were getting ready to play, and we were all there, and everybody wanted one, but Grant's the only one that got one. So you still have that ball?
I do. I'm pretty sure it's at my parents' house, sitting in my room. Pretty cool.
I endorse him just like I do those other coaches.
There you go.
Nobody you'd rather have your kids around than Grant Markham right here.
Appreciate that.
All right, so Scott High will open the season. Now, we've talked about how these teams are opening up and their home games and all that. If you want an opportunity to get out and see Scott High, you're going to get it early on. Your first 4 games are at home. If the weather holds out, you're going to have 3 home games that first week. That's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Campbell County, York, Jellicoe. Then you come back the following week, and you've got Wartburg at home, and that's a great way to open the season for this team.
It is.
So get out and support the Lady Highlanders. March 11th is opening day down at Scott High School. One more break and one more segment to go. We're going to talk track and field when we return on the IH Sports Network. Our final segment tonight on the IH Sports Network Roundtable. Let me real quickly, before we get into this, thank our sponsors, because we have not done that tonight, and our sponsors for this show. Our First National Bank, Twin K Construction, Baby J's Pizza, Razak's, Mark's Family Pharmacy, El Rey, Southport Physical Therapy, Tommy's Motorsports, and Mountain People's Health Council. So, guys, we're going to wrap things up tonight by talking track and field. It's the final spring sport, the one that we've not mentioned yet, and we're joined by Scott High coaches Tim Hall and Kate Fletcher, And so thank you guys, first of all, for coming and joining us. And I'll just let you guys, whoever wants to talk first can talk first. Talk about your team and what we can look forward to this year.
Okay.
We said whoever, but we're all looking at you.
Yes, I know.
Tim
You're the
Tim
veteran.
brought the notes in. So.
Well, yeah. What we do, we appreciate you all having us on. And, we've got Kate, probably the biggest girls team we've had in a while, I feel like.
What, 18?
17,
18?
Yes. You'll have a lot of girls out this year. And with the boys team, it is a tale of two different teams because we have so much overlap with soccer. We will either have 15 or we'll have 3 to meet, depending on whether they have a soccer game. And that's, I believe, there are only 2 of those where we won't have the soccer players. And I would like to take this point to thank Eric Henry. And not just him, but every other person that's ever coached at Scott High School the whole time I've been there. For non-revenue sports, it's hard to necessarily get people out, and especially if you don't have the support of fellow coaches. And they have all just been so wonderful to work with and so just accommodating of anything that those individual students need to perform and to be out there. And really, this relationship we've had with soccer for the last few years is probably the best example of that, where we've got this core group of guys who they do soccer most of the time, but then when they can't, they're here. And in terms of returning athletes that we have with really big goals and ambitions, we finished last season with 2 folks that were in the top 15 within their events at the section. And for those that are not familiar, it's everything from the Tri-Cities to Chattanooga. And that was Aiden Roberts in the 300-meter hurdles. He was 13th with a 45.79, and he was within a second of time or of breaking a school record that was set in the mid-90s. And Riley Lands was top 10 in the 100 hurdles, and she was with 17.86, set the school record at the section meet last year, and that was a 3-way tie of a 30-some-year-old record that she broke. And with both of them, they have room for improvement based on where their form was, and we're already seeing with Riley that
she's working hard. She has a goal in mind. She wants that 300 record this
year.
Oh,
yes. Yeah, that also. And mathematically, you have to be in the top 8 in order to even be in the running for getting to the state finals. And she was 10th last year. If she improves as much, that's a reachable goal. But then when you're talking about that last qualifying spot, though, there's no margin for error then if you're one of the automatic qualifier or the at-large qualifiers. And East Tennessee has a lot of very good hurdlers, and unfortunately I believe the top 2 in the state returning are in our section, and then the other 2 at-large spot the at-large spot statewide. While it will probably wind up in East Tennessee, that's still no guarantee that you're going to wind up getting one of those.
And let me talk about that real quick. I was going to ask you after Rick gets finished asking his questions what you've got to do to make it to the state, and you've already answered that question.
Yes.
But a lot of people forget that because when you talk about sports, you think of team sports, but track and field is one of the few sports where individually you can accomplish things on your own.
Yes.
And Scott High has had state champions in track, had one in tennis as well, but had them in track. And the last, I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the last state qualifier was Mark Carlua.
Yes.
I guess was that the long jump or the high jump?
High jump.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. That was. And that is one of the things I really like about this sport. I feel like with our team sports, you always see it's such an uphill climb regardless of the classification that we land in. And what I really enjoy about this, we have talented athletes here, and it just sometimes gets buried in some of that with the team aspect. And I've always enjoyed how, yes, we can get that one who they can absolutely excel here, and they can get that opportunity that they don't necessarily that we don't necessarily have the depth of in some of the other sports, because even with relays, that's one of the areas where we won't have that depth, and so that group as a group cannot do that. But then, yes, we can get that individual every so often that will do that. And I also think with wrestling earlier this year, they had the two folks who wound up being section finalists, which I'm not surprised, because, yeah, if there's an individual sport, yeah, if it lines up just right, we're going to have somebody who they're going to be among the best in East Tennessee very easily. It's just a matter of do they have the interest to do this or to do something else.
Let rip, Rick.
Okay. Well, in terms of track's not like a softball or a baseball. You don't have that time schedule. You don't end up getting 18 or 20 games in. How many meets typically do you get in a year?
Oh, okay. We typically do about one per week in the season because, as Coach Fletcher here can attest, how long does a meet take?
Hours. I know that.
Masters all day.
Yes, yeah, they are quite lengthy. There are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 running events, and depending on how many schools show up, you just cycle through until everybody runs in it, and yeah, it can take a while.
New surface on the track at Scott Hyde. Do you have any home meets that you're planning this year?
We do not, and
because once again, how long it takes and the amount
yes.
of people that you've got to have.
That's some of it, and then the equipment you also have to have. Our high jump, yeah, we would need a new high jump pit, and those are expensive. And there are some field event upgrades, but then the other thing that would be quite expensive as well, the timing system. And that's one of the biggest changes since I've been coaching. When I started, you would go to a meet and you just have a group of people there with stopwatches at the finish, and that's how you timed everything. And that transition into full electronic timing, if you don't have that, you really shouldn't be hosting a meet. And then not only that, but then there are no lights there. And so, yeah, we would have to have a really, really, really tiny meet that we knew could end very quickly before it got dark.
As a fan, and I want to go to a meet, and I understand it, it can be all spread out all over the place because the 100-meter starts here and the 200-meter starts way over there.
Yes.
There may be a track and field event going on, like a shot put or discus, something like that. I'm a fan. Where do I want to sit? What do I want to watch for at a track meet? What would be the most interesting thing to everything?
Wow. Can you think of anything?
I think it just depends on your interest. I know as a parent, when I would go, of course, it was wherever my child was competing. So it's kind of hard to keep up with everything that's going on. So really just, I guess, what you want to look for.
Yeah. I think if you know up front if there's someone who is just really good in a meet, because you never can tell from one meet to the next. You show up, you may be lined up in your race, or you may be throwing against the defending state champion, my goodness, sometimes
I remember trying to watch Leslie because she was exceptional, and it was like, when's her next race?
Right.
Wanted to see what she was going to do.
Yeah, because the ones that are really good, and I think this is true in a lot of sports, they just make it look effortless, and then you see that, and then you look at the time or you look at the distance and you think, no, they really were trying, because that couldn't have been that, but they just, it looks so easy when they do it.
Of course, everybody's a fan of the individual runner running a 100-meter or a 200-meter. Let's talk about the 4x type events, the 100s, 200s, 400s, like that. Explain what that is and your outlook on your team by putting these 4x teams together this year.
That's something we've just started working on and talking with, trying to put those together. So it's really finding which girls are interested and which distances, and that's really right now still in the planning stages.
And also now with those soccer boys, that's pretty much our boys sprint relay teams. That's them, because they have that interest in that. And then even sometimes you you get to the right meet. A lot of times when we go to York, you can enter multiple relay teams in. And, in years where we have big groups, we will kind of do that. And you use the regular season meets to adjust those combinations to see which groups have the best chance of hitting qualifying time for the section meet as you go to.
As you go into the meets, let's talk about the field events. I'm sure you've got the shot and the discus there like that. Who are some of the athletes we're going to see, girls and boys, in those events? Don't laugh.
Talk about
Okay.
Miss Bailey because I know you.
Yeah.
I'm new.
Yeah. Well, we had we'd overheard some of the conversation with Coach Markham about softball and leaders on the team. I looked at Kate and I said, okay, so who would we go with? And looked, we're like, Bailey, because Bailey Sexton, she's one of our seniors and one of our throwers, and really we have a whole lot of throwers this year. And in part, she's just very encouraging and showing everyone how to do this. She's just really, really, really good with that. And it's been really nice this year at practice. Although Bailey's been a little bit stressed with trying to figure out, because there's so much technique with that, and getting people used to that technique Well, and it's much like with other sports. You get the folks who they're constantly shooting the free throws, and that's the same with almost everything here, especially with the throws and with the hurdles, where yes, you just have to constantly do and constantly repeat and constantly look at what do I need to adjust here or there to make this smoother, because it's not necessarily about out throwing. Sometimes it's about having a better release, and if you can get those things down, you instantly add so much more to it.
You mentioned some state championships. We also, at Scott, I have a state champion shot putter from back in the 80s, I think. Loretta
Yes.
Bertram?
Yes.
So, I mean, field events are important if the right person comes along at the right time.
Yeah. She is one of, I'm trying to think of the ones that we've had make it to the state finals and win state championships. There have been about as many field event entrants at the state finals as we've had running event as well.
First year, Kate, how are you blending in as a coach and as a?
I feel like I'm learning my way the best I can. It's Tim warned me. He said track's cold.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, any spring sport in Scott County is a cold spring until they get to May. So
that was back during cross country. It was still pretty hot, and he warned me, and I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah.
I believe him now.
I feel like that track is probably one. You start off and when you're standing waiting your turn, you're all bundled up, and then by the time you get to those regional sectionals, you're getting sunburnt out there.
Yes, you are. It is. And it's almost the polar opposite of cross country, because cross country will start when it is a bazillion degrees, and then we've had meets in the snow and at the end of the season, and I'm trying to think if I've been to a track and field meet where it was spitting snow. I don't think I have, because I think sometimes early season, if it is that cold, sprinters especially are real prone to injury. And sometimes coaches will say, we're not doing this. Like the further below 45 it's going to be, the more likely early season they are to say, it's unsafe to do this today. And we'll come back and do it.
The thing I learned about track and field a few years ago was that the team, you'd like to think your football teams, your outdoor teams are really well prepared, but the track team, the most essential piece of equipment they take with them, the pop-up canopies, because of how you talked about how long a meet can be like that, and you want to get your kids some shade because most places don't have any shade.
No, definitely some of the stadiums are better than others with that, and yes, you want that, especially if you're going to be there all day. And the postseason meets they are absolutely all day. Field events will start in the 10 a.m. range. The 4x400, the last of the running events, it's easily about 7 p.m. by the time that one happens. Yep.
I just want to ask a couple of quick questions. So, and you mentioned you were a parent. Is that how you came to track? Did you participate?
I ran track when I was in high school. I don't want to date myself, but Loretta Bertram was
a teammate.
Yes, she was.
And I don't remember the year that she.
1998, 1999, somewhere in that
That
range.
sounds about right.
Yeah.
That was rude, Tim.
Sure. What I just started to say you're dating both of us, but anyway. So that, and then as a parent later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but a lot of times, I'm sure you've seen this, Kevin, that people fade in and out as their parents, as their kids are in, they're there, and then they're gone.
Yes.
Why are you staying?
I don't know. I like working with the kids.
Yeah.
And that is, I like seeing kids in today's time that are willing to compete athletically. So many things have taken over with their electronics, and it's great to be able to be there and be a part of.
How did you come to track?
Participated in it beginning in high school, and honestly, my core friend group in high school, that was what we did, and I just absolutely fell in love with running. And I know that us runners are kind of weird that way, and people will look at us and they'll be like, "You really like running?" And yes, we do.
He still runs with the cross country team when they're
does.
training in the
I
fall.
remember.
Yeah.
I used to work across the hill, and I'd see you all practicing all the time. Yeah.
And honestly, one of our freshmen, I was discussing with one of their parents. They were unsure about doing track. They did cross country, but they weren't sure about track. And when they finally changed their mind to it, that was the conversation they had with their mom. They're just like, I like it. I enjoy it. And for some people, which for me is the thing I really like about this the most, is you can find the ones who maybe don't necessarily do the other things, but then they'll find their place here. They'll find their home here. Mm-hmm. And yeah, because for those of us that have, you get it. I mean, you also, right? Because you still wouldn't be doing it if you didn't at some point.
Exactly.
You loved it.
I tried running in the fall with them, and I just couldn't keep up. Maybe next fall.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you alluded to this, and I think you're saying it too. And my point is, so you talked about you have 15 soccer players, and then the three, but you have people that maybe aren't participating in anything else but track. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't for the fact that you all have this program, those are kids that are just sitting home.
Exactly.
And or finding who knows what to get into it. And so do you go up and down the halls recruiting, do you see kids and think, man, I need to get them in this program to give them something to do? You might do it unconsciously. I'm just.
Well, and that is a really good question. That is a really, really good question. And I think some of that it varies maybe from one year to the next, and even what students you see and don't see.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yes, I've definitely had some that I've thought, yes, if they can do this will be good, just because it's something.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One last one here is about the calendar, because I know the TSSAA regulates things, but this is not one of those things that they can only. I mean, they have to work on their own, right?
Yes.
You can't just turn it on and turn it off on the calendar on TSSAA.
Yeah, and even with that, with what is that word I'm thinking of, where you can do the conditioning, or even with the other sports when they can do the summer practices, the workouts and whatnot. That's kind of what this would be all the time.
Right.
And so, generally, as long as you don't have any of the specific implements out, nobody's really going to come asking any questions, and that won't be a problem. And you show up and you run. And a lot of them, they do the various things on their own. And we've grown to over time. We'll make sure that when and Aiden's a good example of this. Matt Todd holds that record in the 300 hurdles, and Aiden and Matt know each other very well. And we kind of arranged for, okay, so when you don't have anything going on with soccer, we'll make sure that we have some hurdles in a spot. And yes, you come out there and you go after it, because you know what you're doing after just a little bit, and you get used to doing that. And we've we've had a lot who they will put in a lot of dedicated time on their own outside of what we do to do this.
And let me tell you, Aiden, how far is he away from Matt Todd's record?
Aiden ran a 45.79, and he needs a 44.6 in that one. Now, the other one, I don't know what he ran in the 110s, but Matt's record in that is pretty fast. That 15.8, that's quick. That is very quick.
So if you've ever seen Aiden with an A, that's his name, by the way, Aiden with an A. If you've ever seen Aiden with an A run, he runs like a doggone gazelle. It surprises me. It shouldn't surprise me because Matt Todd was a terrific athlete when he was in high school, but I don't remember him being that quick.
Yeah, and even with Aiden, it a lot of last season, it didn't look like he was that fast with that, because I know when he got really close to that record, I was like, wow, he's almost done this, because the race didn't look that fast. And I think some of that is it's just, Aiden's lankiness.
Just kind of glides.
Yes, he does, yeah.
All right, well, guys, your season starts March the 14th. You guys will go to York, and as you've already alluded to, all of your meets are on the road, but that's not new for you guys.
No.
That's the way it's been for a lot of years. And you got York, then you go to Gibbs, Austin East, York again, Halls, and then York one final time on May 2nd to wrap up the regular season. So good luck to both of you guys and to your athletes this year. And thanks to all of you for joining us. Let me real quickly before we sign off, thanks some folks, and it starts with Tim and Rick for sitting up here next to me. Greg Bond is always the guy behind the scenes who makes everything work, even though you don't see him on camera. Leetta Boyd is our bouncer here at the C. Michael Lake Technology Center.
She's not doing her job because Kevin Akers is still sitting there.
That's a new title.
Slip in. Got to thank Trophy Masters for the set design. Any of these shirts, if you've been looking at them and you think I need new gear for soccer season, baseball, softball, track, whatever, get up to Trophy Masters and you can pick up one of these shirts. So with that, thank you for joining us, and get out and support the kids all throughout the season starting on Monday, March the 11th. And with that, we say good night.